right, you guys, so I will talk about what we're doing with my stage model today. Like I said, Phil and Mercer are showing you guys some incredible creative color, and I'm here to represent haircutting. So I think about my own personal haircutting in the salon two different ways. I usually am cutting wet with a razor, or I'm cutting dry with a scissor, and that's just kind of how my own clientele has evolved over time. So for instance, you could do this haircut that we did on Rebecca completely dry with a scissor as well, and just use the scissor like a razor. For this, I've decided to use a razor because I wanted to cut this wet so that I can create something that will actually contour around the head shape and build a shape accenting the head shape. Usually if I'm cutting dry and using a scissor, it's when something is going to fall and move. If something's going to kind of wrap around the head shape and build, I like to cut it wet so that hydrogen bond is broken down and the hair has a little bit more flexibility to take on a new shape. I'm cutting with a razor just because it's one of my favorite tools. It can give me seamless blending and allow me to create really perfect soft shapes that a scissor sometimes will have a harder time getting that kind of change in fluidity. So we're going to be using kind of a medium open blade for this and working around graduation through the sides. So we're going to be holding the hair at about 45-degree angle and following the head shape. So we have a traveling guide here. So our second section is going to come to our first, our third comes to our second, our fourth to our third, and so on and so forth, just like that. We're going to comb this out. Our fingers come right behind the comb. We're going to lay our blade at about a 45-degree angle to the section that we're cutting. And a medium open blade is just referring to how much we are moving the razor as we're cutting. If we have a closed blade, we're moving the razor only a little bit. If we have an open blade, we're moving the razor a lot, which is just going to change the amount of weight that's taken out and change the kind of softness and texture that we add into the hair. You'll notice that with my first section, I've left a panel out in the front. I like to do that around the edges just because it leaves me extra weight if I want to create this little bit of softness and face framing with her little female sideburn that she has right here. Oh, and it just gives me options later on. If I decide to cut that off with the graduation straight away, then I won't be able to detail out the hairline in as many shapes as I might want to try. So after that, we're going to be taking our next vertical diagonal section back. So we're taking a slight diagonal section to follow the head shape. We're going to have to slide our fingers past our initial guide here. When you're working with a scissor, you'll stop your fingers at the guide and work in your fingers, right? When we're working with a razor, we have to slide past the guide so that we can see it behind us so that we can work on top of our fingers. You can see we're just working down slowly, rotating my fingers away. And once I get past my second knuckle, I'm going to come back and readjust for my tension. Your tension is going to be really important when you're cutting. If you cut two different sections on the same hair with two different levels of tension, the hair will react in a different way. The stronger tension we put on that, it's going to jump out a little bit more. If we hold it a little bit softer, it's going to lay down a little bit more. So if I cut past my second knuckle, where you can really see, for me, I have very little tension past my second knuckle and good tension through here. So everything through here will be accurate, and everything down here is going to be a little bit less accurate. So taking that bit of time to be meticulous and resection is going to be important to the longevity and accuracy of your haircut. So I'm going to continue those sections all the way through the back. When I get to the corner, I'm going to increase my over direction just a little bit so I build up more weight along the occipital area here, which will give her this nice kind of question mark shape from her profile.
Okay, so my bold and blended technique, it does insane amount of coverage in a little bit of time, and it's basically a technique that it looks like a balayage technique in a sense, but it will give you the lightness that you want. How many of us balayage with a clay lightener, or especially when it's dark hair? We want to get that nice, beautiful blend, but we don't get that lightness that we want. Anyone? Or is it just me? Okay. Okay, well, first and foremost, I want to talk about the tools that I'm using, and then I'll talk a little bit about, and the products, and then I'll talk a little bit about the technique. So I am using the Clay Lightener by Joico, and what I love about their free Clay Lightener is that it gives you up to 7 levels of lift, and it is very, very gentle to the hair. So because my Model 1 has virgin hair, hallelujah, okay, but two, she doesn't need to go, 7 or 9 lifts with an actual lightener. So what I'm going to be using is I'm using clay lightener to give her that lift that I want, and she's going to lift so nicely. And I started off with a 10 developer, and you guys will be shocked at the amount of level of lifts that she will get with the level 10 developer, okay? And then I want to talk about the foils that I'm using, okay? What I love about the Fremar foils, who here in the house uses Fremar? Okay. Okay, so for those of you that don't, I promise you probably will never go back, because what I love about the foils is that they're embossed texture. So the minute you apply any color or liner, it will never stick down, and it will stay nice in place, okay? And then lastly, I love their brushes. Who uses their brushes? Okay. I promise you guys, if you try these brushes, you will never, ever go back, because the balayage blending is done for you, okay? And what I love about the brushes is that they have many different sizes. They have angled ones as well, but the bristles are so, so soft. So when you balayage with it, especially when you're going against the grain, which I will talk a little bit about that, the bristles are so soft, it's going to give you that nice blend for you, so it's doing half the work for you, all right? So, and then what am I using? I'm using just a normal teasing comb, and I'm going to get started on my technique. And I want to first talk about the pop-up foils, too, from the Fremar. This size is really important. So even if you're not using Fremar foils, you want to use the 5x10 foil, okay? And the reason being why is because the way I fold my foils. So you guys see how I'm folding her foils like so, okay? So what you do is you're going to grab the top left corner, the top right corner, and then you're going to simply just cross it over to be able to bend it over, and you'll be able to touch gracefully on her root. You guys love that? Yeah? Okay? So this is, again, a bold and blended technique. And as I work my way up, I'm going to be using 10, and then 15, and then 20, and 30, and 40, and so on. So you can either skip 15 and go up to 20, but if you work a little bit slower and you're a new artist or it's a new technique that you're not comfortable with, then you can work your way up with 5 developer. But since I'm up here for 45 minutes, I'm going to be using 5 developers up higher every single time, okay? So let me finish this last section, and then I'll show you guys exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to go in, and I'm going to take a moon-shaped section, okay? Now, look at this. I'm already almost halfway down to the back of her head. You guys will be shocked at the transformation and the saturation that she will have with so little time. So I'm going to be taking a moon-shaped section, okay? And I'm going to be taking out my little baby lights. And when I say baby lights, I mean like 3, 4, 5 strands. You don't want to be taking out those chunky highlights, because we're not in Kelly Clarkson era anymore, all right? Hopefully that will never come back. Who knows nowadays?
Baby, like
might.
premature baby lights.
It might, those red and black blonde streaks. That was the thing.
I love stripes.
Yeah, I know you do, Bill. Okay, so I'm going to take out my little baby lights, okay? And then this is what's going to give you that really nice blend, okay? So for those of you that when you're liking to get that balayage effect, but you're too afraid to just go in and paint, what I like to do is I like to tease, okay? But there's like a way of teasing. You're just not going to go in and go crazy and tease her hair and then call it a day and put liner on it. No, there's a full-on way of teasing. So what I like to do is notice I split the hair into 2. Okay? And the reason why I do that is because I want there to be way more dimension towards the middle. So I'm going to tease obviously much more, right? So I'm going to go in, and I'm going to start my around the mid-length, and I'm tease all the way up. That is very important that you tease all the way up to the root, okay? And I'm going to tease about 3 times in the center of the hair, okay? And making sure that that tease is all the way up. As I move my way forward to the side of the hair, I'm going to tease twice. And as I move my way even more forward to the side, I'm going to tease once. So do you guys understand that that dimension is going to kind of slowly grow down? So you'll have much more brightness up here and much more dimension down here, okay? And then you're going to do the same exact thing. Now, it is very important that you guys know the amount of times that you're teasing for each section, because you don't want one section to be lower and then one section to be higher with the teasing, because your balayage will be a little bit off place. So that you kind of have to have that picture memory of how much you teased, all right? So I'm going to go in and start doing the same exact thing on the other side, and then I'll kind of show you a little bit of what I'm doing after I'm done with this section. So, Phil, what are you up there taping away?
I'm dropping it low.
You are dropping it hot.
So pixelated hair is very easy. This is like a foolproof technique. And it's something that I've been able to turn into a lot of different things in the salon. Like I balayage with pixelated hair ideas in mind. You obviously, when we're creating lines in a haircut, we want to use no elevation, no tension, because that will give us the best. That's how we were able to get a solid line on our curly hair, right? I didn't pull her hair out at all. I just laid it where, or put the lightener on it where it lived. So I'm going to talk to you guys about these. These are, you can use tape, you can use anything. I find that address labels are nice because they're pre-cut.
I'm not joking. He's tried all tapes.
Yeah, like this is like the hairdresser's secret. They're pre-cut. They're a nice density. They don't fold up. They're not staticky. The hardest part of this whole technique is trying to figure out how many tabs you have left on one of the papers. If any of you have ever worked in an office or salon or office.
Salon. I think we all worked at a salon.
So you can see each section that I'm doing is, this is my next section here. And I'm actually using a pretty wide section. I'm going from ear to ear, but it's only a 1/2 inch wide. It's pretty long. The reason that I'm able to do it so wide is because she wants to have color that she can take away right away when she's done being my model. But we're gonna
Wow,
play.
well, we're being honest here, aren't
No,
we?
I've actually never had a model ask me to color her hair back, so we're gonna pretend and we're gonna pray. We all pray real quick. She's not gonna ask us to change it back.
Maybe if she sees it, she'll
But
love
if you're flying JetBlue and you see pixelated hair, you know, that's where she works. So anyway, what you need to know
Your
about this,
social security
aside
number
from,
is-
aside from the fact that we're using cutting techniques for the idea on how to keep the hair together, the tape's going to keep the hair in place. Even more so, think of like two industries: the people that do like professional painters that paint businesses, right? They line the walls with tape so that they can get drunk while they're painting your office and nobody will know because it's not messy. So this is your just protection from anything going anywhere. You can freehand this if you'd like, but pixelated hair needs to be very sharp and it needs to be not blurry at all. And it can be really organized and nice. So I'm condensing all of the hair together, and because her hair is actually pretty thick, you know, on say like a model with really fine hair, I'd have to take thicker sections. But you want to take thick sections so that you can get a lot of contrast, okay? Each of these, even though it looks like the section's moving up, it's a traveling guide. The first section that you do is your template for all the rest of the application, okay? Each of these, since my section went up a 1/2 inch, this is gonna go up a 1/2 inch, right? If they're exactly the same, these four should be just as far away from each other as each section was, and the same with the top. So you can literally finish your application, step back, and realize like, oh, one of those is crooked, or you know something's not right, and take it apart before you've ever put any lightener on. So it's a really, like I said, foolproof technique. But you need to treat this kind of like tape and extensions. How many of you have done tape and extensions? So you're going to put the tape underneath, lay the hair down, and then try your best to line them up perfectly. If you do tape and extensions, this is going to be really easy for you. If you don't, my trick is, first off, I used to use measuring devices to make sure it was perfectly measured, but hairdressers are more visual. All you have to do, slap that right there, a 1/2 inch above the previous one, lay the hair on top of it. You saw that I let go of the hair and then just push it into the hair, and it's 1/2 inch above. Start, because sometimes there's flyaways, start a little bit above your section, and then push down just to grab those flyaways. This is all you do, anywhere on the head. My favorite spots are in the back of the head, on the sides, like in the corners, and then in the front. I usually try to stay away from the hairline. The hairline hair stays still. The reason that hers has jaggedness and you don't necessarily just see the straight lines is because I've placed the pixels in areas where the hair moves. Hers is going to be like have a lot of color and a lot of motion, because this hair here, sometimes it's over here, sometimes it's over here, you know, sometimes it's over here if she's on the playground. But you want to pick places where this hair moves. So always put the color where the hair lies, but make sure if the hair here, like really, really low on the head, the hair just goes straight down. Right around the face, the hair just goes straight down. In the bangs, the hair does go straight down, but it also spreads, right? So those are like the key points. And even if you don't do pixelated hair, just know that if you're doing any kind of color blocking section, or say you don't have your client doesn't have a lot of money to spend on a service, but you want to have a lot of color show up with just a little bit of work, back here on the back of the head, like where the hair splits, or anywhere that the hair has a lot of motion. Stay away from the parts of the face that are really stationary. And that's it. So even if you can't use pixelated hair on your models, think about those techniques and put them into more natural techniques. So I'm going to keep doing this, and then when we come back, I'm going to show you guys how to apply the color. Since I'm taking a thick section, we have to start applying the color a little bit differently because we're used to taking really paper-thin sections.
I love that Phil said he used to use measuring devices to do this. I remember the first pixelated color class that I think he ever taught was at our salon in Atlanta, and he was using playing cards to measure it. That was his very...
They were clear playing cards.
They were
Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes.
very specific measuring devices. I love that. All right, so I have basically finished my outline shape, my whole interior, like kind of graduated shape, and I'll show you guys what that makes. If we look at her now from the profile, we left one section disconnected in the front, and then we took diagonal sections back using just a little bit of overdirection, kind of a traveling guide working a round shape. When we got to here, we overdirected a little bit more, which is what gives us this bit of a drop in the weight, where you see we get a nice kind of like question mark contour there on the side of the head. So really easy shape. And to me, if you can master doing round graduation like this, like when I was first learning to cut hair, it was very difficult for me to cut short hair for women and have it look feminine, or like just know what I was supposed to do with it. You know, it was a little bit intimidating. But once I started working a little bit more with the round graduation, I feel like it opened up all new doors for new cuts for me, and allows me to cut all sorts of things on for short hair for girls. And now, I mean, these days it's like you could just cut the round graduation, leave the top, and be like, there, you're done. And then it's like super popular. Everyone like loves that. Everything's like really, really loose these days. That's what's great about being a hairdresser. We're like, oh, it doesn't even have to be good. That's good.
Do some beachy hair, call it a day.
Yeah, exactly. It's like with curling it. It's like, oh, we curl it, and then we want to like make it look like she was pushed out of a car, and then that's the perfect curl. So what we're doing through the top is I have any like people who used to be scene kids back in the day? Yeah? All right. That's some energy still. She's like, I just came from, an As I Lay Dying show. But anyway, so we're gonna be working with like a bit of a tail. I think that tails can be kind of cool, and whenever I was in hair school back in like 2007 or whenever it was, we did a lot of tails, a lot of disconnections, and honestly, I felt like everything I did ended up looking like an octopus by the end of it. It was like, we're going to leave a tail here, a tail there, one there, and now it's a chandelier. Okay. So one thing that I learned over time, though, that I learned from a few mentors of mine, is that things have to be aesthetically pretty, and they need to make sense. I was given the advice about my work by someone named Lucy Dowdy, who is editorial director for Paul Mitchell, and she was like one of my mentors when I was first like learning to do hair. And she told me that my work was too busy, like there was too many tails, too many things hanging off of it. And I took that to heart. I think that coming up with aesthetic and being able to bring out the best in our clients is important, and not doing creative things just for the sake of being creative. They have to have some sort of purpose and direction for them, right? So that doesn't mean that I don't want to do tails anymore, even though she probably wouldn't want me to do too many tails. I remember I did this like raccoon tail where I stamped it out on somebody, and she was like, no. But I like the tails, but instead of adding so many, I think I'm going to add one that will work with the natural movement of her hair this way, and then we'll have something longer in the front, kind of giving us an opposite, we'll call it the infinity symbol haircut. Don't I love naming haircuts or whatever. It's like, well, we call this the longer on top haircut.
You're like me, name my techniques.
No. I didn't invent this, though. So that's the problem the thing about haircutting is, like, to me, it's like haircutting is just, like I said, a mixture of fundamental techniques. There's only a few different things that we can do when we're cutting hair. We can graduate hair, we can layer hair, or we can cut a line, right? We can use different tools to do that. We can use a razor, we can use scissors, we can use clippers, right? We can use your teeth. I don't care as long as the shape is right. But that's the thing about it, is that I never say that I invented a haircut because the techniques are just being used. We're just mixing them up in all sorts of different ways, you know? We have graduation that's going to build weight. It makes things look wider and more full, heavier. We have layers that remove weight and make things look softer, skinnier. It adds more movement. We use lines to set lengths and to create a frame and to draw the eye from side to side or away from or to a specific aspect of your client. Maybe something like if your client has great eyebrows, we can put a line right here. If they have great cheekbones, we can put a line right here. So we use all of these different techniques in different ways to give us different end results. And as soon as I started thinking about things fundamentally like that, I feel like it made haircutting less intimidating for me. And as long as I understood what each one of these techniques did, I could use it to create or recreate any haircut on any model or client. So I really like that little bit of a tail. I think it's kind of cool. You can see it contours around the head nicely through the side. We use this as a guide and connected. And then as we go, we're actually sliding out with our razor, which is what I meant by it's a more versatile tool in some ways than a scissor because you can more easily change shape on the drop of a dime, right? So we were starting out connecting, and then just with a simple slide of your fingers, we are very seamlessly starting to cut more concave, short to long. Something I like to do with the razor as well. Does anyone here enjoy scissor over comb or clipper over comb work? Yeah? So something that I like to do is a little bit of razor over comb. We took a vertical diagonal section to cut this originally. So I'm going to come in with more of a horizontal diagonal section, keeping the intended shape in mind and working just in one direction with my razor to cross-check and take out a little bit of weight. All right, so this is something that you guys can play with at home. It's a great way to cross-check a shape like this, but still keep things soft. Sometimes when I was cutting with the razor, I would come back and cross-check with a regular scissor over comb, which would give me the balance that I was looking for, but would also kind of strengthen up the shape a little bit too much. This keeps with this kind of diffused and shattered feel. So now what we're going to do, we took over direction this way, right? So we know that when we over direct the hair, all we're doing is pulling it away from where it naturally lives, and we're going to get length and weight increasing in the opposite direction that we pull the hair. So we over directed this way for the back. Now I want to have kind of an opposite tail for the front, so I'm going to switch my body position. I'm going to use this corner here as a guide, and we're going to work a shape that is kind of a C shape down here through the side, which she could wear to this side, or if she pushes it over, she's going to get more of a dramatic increase of length on her right side. I do that every time I say a client. I'm like, would you mind looking over your left shoulder for me? All right, so I'm just going to be taking diagonal sections, bringing everything to the same point. So we had a traveling guide on the sides. Now we have a stationary guide. Everything's coming to the exact same point, right? And we'll just continue that way through the top, and we'll come back with our end result in a little bit.
Amazing. So as you guys can see, I am done with the back. Okay. So I wanted to show you a little last bit of her foiling. First of all, how cool does this look, right? I'm glad you love it. Thanks.
Yeah, it looks good.
Thank you. I'm just kidding. Okay, thank you. So I just want to show you guys the last top foil for her. As obviously you can see, I'm not going to take a moon-shaped foil on the top because it doesn't make sense because it's not a moon shape. It's completely just flat. So the way I take it, so that way I can completely cover every single edge of the area, is I do what I call a little UFO. And this is what you do. You fold one side, and you create a little cute tent, okay? Fold the other side, and there's a tent for you. You're going to take the top, fold that over, and you got yourself a little UFO, okay? And that way, it grazes gently right on her root like so, okay? You guys love that? Okay, so now, thank you. So now we started on her side. So as you can tell, I mean, this took me so quick to do, all right? And it would even be faster if I wasn't talking. So I wanted to talk about the front because the front is a little bit different. So I took a diagonal forward section, and the reason why I take diagonal forward sections with any technique, and I always, by the way, do a center section on all of my clients because I don't care how you part your hair. Because one, what if you decide to part your hair for an event or something differently, right? And then your whole color is like whacked out. So for me, all of my techniques are very cohesive on both sides. So if you flip my model's hair over, which they're going to be at the meet and greet, you guys can touch their hair. You flip their hair over, it's exactly the same exact thing on the other side. It looks very nice and cohesive. So what I did was I took a diagonal forward section, and then I went in and I teased on the very back section much more. Then it's slightly teased less and slightly teased less as I move my way forward closer to the root. Closer to her face. Because again, we want more dimension towards the back and more brightness towards the front. Now, I'm a huge advocate on the full salon etiquette and atmosphere for your client, okay? So I always make sure that everything is away from the face. So the main reason why I take diagonal forward sections is because that way everything can be away from the face. So what I do is I take my foil, I put my, what do you call it? The little rat tail comb thing, stick, whatever.
Yeah, it's a stick.
Diagonally, okay? And then I'm going to go in, and I'm just going to fold that right over, so that way everything is beautifully away from her face. If you take it completely horizontally across, it's going to be right on her face, and it's going to be uncomfortable. I mean, yes, it'll be the same exact result, but again, we want the full experience for our clients, and the full experience comes from the minute they walk in the door, okay? It's not just good hair anymore, because good hair is oversaturated with so many amazing hairdressers because of social media. So what is it going to make us stand out from the rest? And that is the full experience and the full atmosphere of the client's experience. Am I right? Right? So making sure that everything is away from the face is a really big deal for the clients, because let's be real, they want to take a selfie, they want to let the world know that they're getting pampered, okay? And it makes them feel much more comfortable. They don't have fumes in their face and all that. So what I did is I went in, I took my baby lights. Well, the only difference that I do in the front, and you guys can see, I take a much more chunkier baby light, or I shouldn't even say baby light, highlight around the face, because I want there to be that brightness around the face, okay? I want that like money piece flowing all the way around through, all right? So I'm going to go in, and I'm going to fully saturate this piece. Now, whenever I am saturating any color or whenever I'm getting close to the root, I never go in, whether I'm balayage or doing highlights, and to just dab and just leave it, okay? Because you're already asking, one, for a demarcation line, and two, it's going to look like it's already grown out, right? So what do you do to fix that? It's easy. All you do is just go slightly against the grain as you get closer to the root. Again, whether you're doing highlights or balayage. And that way will give you that much more seamless, softer, gentler blend, all right? So let me show you exactly what I'm doing, again, on this other side. Now, another thing, if you guys haven't noticed, that I like to apply lightener on my wrist, okay? One, I love the the Fremar gloves, is because they go all the way up to our wrist, okay? For me, I love that because I am kind of a messy person, and I work really fast. And so this helps me stay cleaner longer, but also that way it allows me to apply lightener on my wrist. And there's many reasons. One, keep going back and forth, back and forth. That is going to accumulate to a lot of time over how many clients you do. And again, time is money, okay? Another thing is that when you take a lightener out of your bowl, it's just chunky. So you don't have full control of how much you're applying on the on the hair. And the minute you apply, if you apply too much, it's going to seep in, and you're just asking for a color correction. And I'm teaching you guys how to save time, not how to do a full-on color correction happening right after, all right? So then, again, you're going to go in, take as much as you want from your wrist, and that way you have exactly the amount, and it's nice and flat lightener on your brush. So it gives you the perfect amount that you want. I always say less is more. So you go in, you apply. Oh, first let me tease this. I'm sorry. Almost forgot. I got too excited with my balayage. Let me get one more foil, please. Okay, so I'm going to go in. You guys see how I'm teasing so much more further back. And as I get closer to the root, I slightly tease it at all. Okay? I'm going to go in, put that crease in, fold it. There we go. Now, I'm going to take my brush, and I'm going to be able to really have that full control of how much I'm applying on my brush and how much I'm applying on the hair. I always say less is more, okay? So you can always just take a little bit less and on your brush and then apply it on the hair. And if you need more, go in and apply more. Now, the more lightener you have when you're balayaging, the more brighter the color will look and will lighten. So the more you have on here, lightener-wise, and if you don't see anything seeping through, it's going to be much more brighter, okay? Now, when you're also going against the grain, do you see how it's giving me that slight tease effect? That is giving you that really nice blend without even having to do anything. And then also teasing the hair, that's that's giving you that extra blend. So really, you don't have to even worry about demarcation line happening with this technique, because if you're utilizing going against the grain with your brush and teasing having that teasing effect, you're asking for the most beautiful blend ever, okay? Now, if you notice, I'm doing diagonal back with my balayage, because again, I want this to meet the back, okay? So I went much lower towards the back, and I want to go much higher towards the front. So I'm going diagonal back with my balayage, so that way she still has that dimension going through the back, and then much more brightness through the front, okay? Don't forget about the bottom side. Now, the bottom side is is obviously very important as well, okay? If you want dimension, then you can just surface paint the top and call it a day. Okay, but for me, I want a full transformation, completely lighten her up. So I'm going to go in and do both sections, the bottom and the side, and make sure that you're doing exactly what you're doing on the top. You're doing the same exact thing on the bottom, and as you can see, I'm doing a full-on diagonal back sectioning. All right. Now, when I bring it down, I'm going to go put the hair on my palm and make sure that I have full control and saturate. The reason why I like to put it on my palm is because I can feel the tension of how much I'm saturating, so I know that it's 100% saturated. All right, then I'll bring it back down, and then I'll go in and fix anything that I don't like or that I see. Okay, whatever is lightened, you take a step back and you're like, okay, I don't like that. I'm going to comb that out a little, add a little bit more blending to it, because the way you leave it is the way it's going to start lightening, okay? So whatever it is that you don't like, take it away right away and fix it, because that's how it's going to finish, okay? Again, I'm going to go in, take my foil, slightly bend it, and then you guys see again, I took that a little bit slighter, more of a larger chunk around the hairline. And again, I'm going to go against the grain. Now, guys can visualize that beautiful blend with the baby lights happening, how seamless and beautiful that blend is going to be. And you guys see how everything is nice and away from her face? Yes? Awesome. All right, Phil, take it over.
All right, guys, I am moving on pretty quickly. I've got 3.5 sections left. This is what the application looks like when it's processing. If you've ever seen me post a picture of my application process online, it usually looks a little bit like that, and I might crunch some things in there because I don't want anybody to know what I'm doing. So if you do this, do me the favor, don't ever tell anybody about the tape. Like, that's our secret, okay? You can do anything you want. Just
hey, you guys came here to pay for this class, right? So why were you going to share your secrets?
But it's also kind of fun to throw. It's like throwing people off your trail. Like, everybody else is Carmen Sandiego, and I'm the... You guys know what that is? Okay, sorry. I was like, oh, God, I'm old now. All right, so what I do first, I know how big that section is. Because I have a really thick section of hair, I need to do 3 or 4 things. You apply the lightener on the foil in the size of the section. All right, I'm going to set that one. I'm going to use that one next. The next thing that I did is I painted on both sides of this. The tape is there to prevent mistakes. So just go. Don't worry about, if you're OCD, I get it. But if not, like me, just throw it on there. The next thing that you're going to do is start applying lightener. I apply the lightener onto the tape first and then go away from it. The reason that you wouldn't want to just go back and forth kind of crazy is because you don't want to accidentally push lightener in between those tapes. They're there to prevent that, but they can only do so much. So you go down from the top, go halfway, and then go up from the bottom. Now, that doesn't mean that you've saturated it all the way through. Even though you have stuff on the foil and you've gone up and down, and you need to put a little bit more work into it. Comb the hair to make sure that there's no hairs going sideways, or that there's no hollow spots in the center. And just go right back in. Do this 2 or 3 times. My favorite lightener is a lightener that doesn't expand too much. So if you have one in the salon that you're using that you're kind of concerned about, clay lighteners are always really good.
And what's your favorite lightener, Phil?
I have a few. In the salon, I'm always a blonde or blonde me or blonde life kind of guy.
Yeah.
So I think that all lighteners have something different about each one of them. I've actually really, really, really been happy with Framisi. Anybody use Framisi? Their Decolor 9 gives you 9 levels of lift, and it's so gentle. So don't sleep on Premiereorlandotv. But I think that I have the luxury, because I work with the artistic team with Cosmoprof, that we can use whatever we want, and I truly, really use a lot of different things. So I did a test strand here. I always do a test strand on all my models, and I forgot to color it dark, so if that's what you're seeing, that's what I did. I don't want to ever have mistakes, so even on clients, I'll test strand because there is permanent color on her hair. She just likes to have it more brown, not for any other reason. You just kind of cover it, start from the tab, go away to the center, just to get lightener on there. Go place it, right on top of the lightener that you had on your foil, and jump right in.